G'day guys, so it's 20 here and welcome back to Parkitect. So, last episode we finally finished and completed the scenario for Dollarwood. That was kind of easier than I expected. I definitely did struggle at first in the game, but towards the end it was very easy to reach that target. So I think in the next scenario that I end up playing, I'm going to make it a lot more difficult to achieve that goal. But to be honest, it probably couldn't have come at a better time because we are practically out of room in Dollarwood. There is probably about 2 more episodes left of work to do in Dollarwood, and then we're out of here, and then we're going to start a new series, which to be honest I've already started working on, and I'm really excited to show you all the work that I've been up to. It's in a completely different build style, and I'm also using mods from the workshop, and it's really tricky to come back to Dollarwood and work without any mods. So I'm pretty itching to get into that series, to be honest, and yeah, it's probably good timing to actually start that off. But Dollarwood, man, I am loving the way that this thing is turning out, and the last couple of episodes I'm going to be working on just filling out the remainder of the park with most probably a roller coaster in the next episode, and in today's episode we are obviously working on / worked on a log flume. So this log flume is inspired by the log flume that's in Magic Mountain, which is where I'm getting most of my inspiration from for Dollarwoods just in general. But there's nothing really special about this log flume. It's just a log flume that I thought would best fit this area, and to be honest, there's no theming as far as I can tell. I haven't written it, and it's probably a pretty old log flume too, which I also wanted to kind of encompass within this build too. I didn't really want it to look like it was a recent development. It's probably something that's been sitting in Dollarwood since day dot. And I also wanted to go for that under-themed look too, which, to be honest, I think most log flumes tend to have. They seem to be the sort of ride where there might be like a touch of theming, but then generally it's just a very underwhelming rides that you generally ride if there's nothing really better to ride. Obviously that's not the case for all of them, but I think that the vast majority of log flumes are generally pretty average rides. So that's the general theme that I'm going for in this build. And by the way, we are going to go into a live play probably in about 8 minutes time, so if you want to check out everything that I've been working on in a live play, then that'll be around that time too. Also, something that I keep forgetting to do in my Parkitect videos is that I also have a Patreon page for people who want to support the channel. This isn't my full-time job, this is just a job that I do on the side, but honestly it's probably something that I do just as much as my regular job, to be honest. I do quite a lot of work in my videos and on my channel, and it's work that I obviously really love. But if you ever want to support me on Patreon and help out the channel, then that'll be the best place to do it. I've got a link in the description for that. There are also a lot of great perks for patrons, so you get early access to videos and save games. So I'll be uploading Dollarwood onto Patreon as well, and also work in progress pictures. So I'm actually going to start sharing some pictures of my new series on there too. So if you ever want to support me, there are some great perks, and to be honest, it just helps me out a ton. And while I'm at it, I'm also on Twitter and on Instagram, and I've also got a Discord server. The Discord server is mostly about City Skylines, but I'm sure most of you probably play that game as well. We're all in the same realm of simulation theme park / city gaming. I'm sure we've all grown up with Roller Coaster Tycoon and SimCity at some point. Alright, so a couple of things that I've been doing on screen. I have pretty much just been fleshing out the general theming and scenery for the log flume. Like I said before, we're going for very under-themed, and pretty much the only theming that's going to be happening around there is trees and bush. And I also put a cover over the first drop, and that's something else that I'm taking from the log flume in Magic Mountain. Just little things like that, little bits of detail that, aren't really creating too much more atmosphere for the rides, but it's just kind of fitting in with the theme of Dollarwood being the sort of theme park that it is. Something you saw me do as well with the the station for the Log Flume, I was trying to achieve that circular station look that so many of these Log Flumes have. Again, the one at Magic Mountain has a circular station, and quite often the ones that I've been on as well have that sort of station too, and that's the same for the River Rapid rides. However, I just wasn't able to achieve that look. I'm not even sure if you can. I'd love for you to let me know if you've been able to do something like that with one of the entrances. By the way, while we're talking about River Rapids, don't you find it weird that there's no River Rapids in this game at the moment? I'm really hoping that's something they end up introducing into like some sort of expansion pack. Maybe they'll do some sort of water theme for like a DLC. But I find it really weird that we don't have one, because that is a very standard ride, and every other theme park game that I've ever worked in has some sort of River Rapid ride, and this one doesn't, which is a real pain, because that is probably one of my favorite rides in terms of riding it myself and also building it. Like, I really enjoy doing the theming work for the River Rapids. I remember Roller Coaster Tycoon had a really great came with some really great assets that you could, like extensions I guess, that you could piece together and create quite unique looking experiences for guests. I really loved that part about it, and I'm kind of hoping that they end up introducing something similar in Parkitect, but who knows. Alright, other things that I've been doing. I've just been doing some general theming around this area. I am not going for a particular look, but I guess if it was going to fit into some sort of theming box, then it would probably be some kind of colonial American look, but I really wasn't going for any particular style. But now that I look at it, it actually does look a bit colonial, so maybe that's what this theming is. And like I said before, I imagine that this area was probably built when the park first opened, or would have been one of the more probably one of the first expansions to the park. And the reason why I say that is because Log Flumes generally aren't something that a park will end up acquiring. They're generally older rides, you don't really see too many parks building new Log Flumes unless it's something that's in like Disneyland, or something that has a lot of, or like really great theming. Generally these Log Flumes are built around like the 70s, 80s, and that's, they're sort of like the stock standard ride for theme parks to have. I reckon they'd be super cheap to run, and well, actually they're probably not that cheap to run considering there's quite a lot of water involved. But I'm sure that Log Flumes are a massive draw card for younger guests. I do know that, these are some of the first rides that I would ride that kind of got me introduced to even thinking about going on a roller coaster. I remember being like, 8 years old and thinking there's no way I'm ever going to ride a roller coaster. And after a couple of Log Flume rides, roller coasters don't really seem too intimidating after that. It's just a gradual thing, I guess, and maybe that's where Log Flumes kind of fit into, people's riding experience. It's the gentle ease into bigger rides. But regardless, I'm quite happy with how this thing turned out. I think it would be quite a fun ride, but I probably think that the general theming around this area probably is a better draw card for guests than the actual Log Flume itself. So I wanted to kind of work with that and add a couple of places for people to sit and places to buy food too, because this is quite a big distance from the main entrance of the park, and we have no transport rides in this park at the moment, and I don't think we even have space for it. So people are generally on foot, and that's about it. So I thought that this would be a pretty good pit stop. This would probably be one of the last places you could buy some food or some water and have a proper sit down. And it's actually probably a really nice spot for that too, because we have this really quite large lake and the Log Flume too. So I did want to put a bit of effort into the general theming and scenery for this area, considering that people are going to be hanging around here quite a bit. So I just placed on that really cool, it's not really a well-themed building, but I think the location for it's really nice, and there's like a little balcony spot that I think will probably be one of the nicest spots within the park. And I'm also trying really hard just to not go too big with these buildings too, because we are running out of room, and I don't really wants to have massive buildings out this far in the park, because generally most of the bigger buildings and the more substantial eating areas are around the entrance of the park. And then as we look at a little bit further out, we're kind of going into the more smaller, less visited areas. But that's pretty much it for the time lapse. I'm going to jump into a live play and I'll give you a tour of everything that we've just been doing. So for a Log Flume, it's got a pretty decent excitement rating, and I didn't expect that. I guess that's probably what Parkitect determines to be an exciting ride, but Log Flumes, they're generally the ride that I always avoid. Like, I never really bother to ride them unless it's one of the more exciting rides at the theme park, but I think that really says a lot about a theme park if a Log Flume is the most exciting ride there. But generally, I mean, they're not really top priority for me, but this is not a bad one. And I guess in a theme park like Dollarwood, this would probably be on the list of rides to ride. We're not exactly packing too many exciting rides at the moment, at least, or, you know, the custom rides at the moment. Alright, I might start a tour from around here, and alright, yeah, let's start around here. So, this is probably the quickest route to get to this area around here. Of course, it doesn't exactly have a theming, it's just another area of the theme park, and it's probably the shortest route. I reckon that'd be a pretty long distance. But either way, I mean, there's no transport rides going around this theme park, so if you want to get to here, you pretty much just have to walk it, and that'd be a pretty decent walk. Alright, let's start around here. I'm just trying to make it stop raining. I really hate the rain in this game. Hate the rain in all these games. Alright, so first things first, I obviously can't get goods over here through tunnels because of the way that I designed this map. So I ended up placing a path which I don't think you're going to be able to see. There it is. So there's actually a path that goes under here for my workers, and that's probably more useful for people like the haulers to get goods around the theme park. But it's a decent walk and it's not very efficient, so I'm glad this is only a small theme park and not a big one. I wanted to keep this area pretty, just pretty bushy, like quite a lot of forest around this area as we creep into this more dense, built up area. Not a huge fan of these buildings, but they do the trick for the time being. And the station for the Log Flume, you know, it's not exactly what I wanted. I really wanted that circular station. I just couldn't achieve it. I'm still pretty happy with this. You know, it's quite simple, it's very basic, but I still quite like it. And I think what really makes it work is just like little boxes like this, just to show that there's, you know, there's actually a functional, you know, people actually work around here, and also like the detail work done with the trees too. I think that also really helps out. But in terms of the Log Flume, I mean, yeah, not exactly the most thrilling ride, but I think it fits in pretty nicely with everything else in Dollarwood. And I think probably my favorite little area is this nook around here. This is a sort of area where probably locals or people who go to this park quite often would know about this little area, but it's probably one of the more nicer, quiet areas of the park. But it's really just a little, you know, just a tiny little nook that most people probably don't know about. And speaking of good views, I think this is probably one of the best views in the park. It's probably a bit more of a higher end restaurant in the park, whereas, you know, probably all the other, you know, restaurants or cafes or fast food joints are more on the, you know, crappy amusement park food joints. But yeah, I wanted this to be a little bit nicer. Alright, next episode. I think I have one more build left in Dollarwood, and then that's it. I think it's going to be here, and it's probably going to be some sort of roller coaster, and I'm thinking something a bit more in the powerful side of things. I don't know, something like a more decent roller coaster, probably the most newest addition to Dollarwood, and probably makes sense to be building it last. But I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, we're pretty much finished Dollarwood, which is pretty exciting. It doesn't mean it's going to be the end. I dare say I'll be back to do some management work on it and add other bits and detail and replace some things. I say that now, who knows if I end up doing that, but I don't exactly just want to say goodbye to this theme park. I have put quite a bit of work into it, and it's now at the stage where I actually just love floating around it and playing it and trying to get my management side totally on point. So I dare say I'll be back to do a little bit of that work too. But guys, hit me up with some comments and some suggestions for roller coasters I should build in that little area, and we'll work on that in the next episodes. But until next time, have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later.